What I wanted to do today is talk to you a little bit about free enterprise. Now, this is really, in my opinion, sort of where all of this is going to come together. Now, I'm not trying to say that my lecture is better than everyone else's. I'm just saying that it's going to kind of give you all the working pieces. Okay, so it's going to be not technical, but it's going to have a lot more moving parts and kind of less of a theme and more of kind of covering a lot of different things. I want to start off, though, rather than just going straight into the lecture. I was advised by a few people who said, well, are you just going to go up there and talk about all these different things, or are you going to kind of share your experience? And I think that that's valid. All of you guys are here for a different reason. Does anybody want to volunteer and say, what motivated you to come here today? Anybody? Go ahead. Your mother's starting a business, so you wanted to learn more about free enterprise. Okay. Anybody else? No volunteers? Why are you here? Go ahead. How business works. Anyone else? Go ahead. Free economy. For what purpose? Okay, persuade other people to see it. Just because, is this a religion that we're a part of, or do we understand this to be something of substance and something of value that we want to convey to others? And I'm guessing that's where you're coming from, right? We're not a cult. We want other people to understand what we have seen and recognize to be, in my opinion, to be truth. Okay? So what I want to do first is start off with a little bit of my story. If I can find my clicker here. Now, why are we studying economics? Okay, so you guys have given me a few different reasons. My personal experience starts back in 2006. I spent a month in India. Okay? I was there on a missions trip. Okay? Now, we're not here to discuss religion and missions trips. That's kind of a different subject for a different organization for a different day. But that's where I was. I was in India. 2006. I came back, and I was just stoked, right? I thought, oh, I want to change the world. I want to impact people in a positive way. What did I see in India that impacted me so much? Well, I saw poverty. I saw people hurting, hungry. It had a very deep impact on me. I came home, and I was in New York. I looked around the airport, and I'm watching this guy and that lady and this little kid whining about my luggage is late and this and that. And I just came from a place where people are literally, hungry. They're looking at you, and they're going like this. They want to eat something. It'll break your heart, I promise you. Big impact on me. So I came back, and I thought, well, I might end up being a missionary. What I need to do is I need to shovel all my money over to India and help them. And then, nothing wrong with doing that. Maybe some might argue there is, but I'm not going to make that argument. But then something else happened. I started attending a different school called Northwood University. Okay? Now, I'm not here to advertise for them, but this is my experience. And I took a class called Philosophy of American Enterprise with a gentleman by the name of Brennan Brown, who's still teaching there today. He was a former intern of Larry Reed's when he was at the Mackinac Center, and a former student of Bert Folsom when Bert Folsom was teaching at Northwood. And in this class, they gave me a 500 and something page book, maybe 600 pages. And I don't like to read. I don't know about you guys. I'm more of a video guy. I'm just not into it. I'd rather listen to an audiobook. I'd rather watch TV or a movie. Okay, that's just my learning style. And oh, great, they gave me this book, and I got to take this class. It was a required class, the first class that I took at Northwood. I was a business major. And I started reading the book, and it was phenomenal. It's called When We Are Free. Now, the book wasn't an original to Northwood. The book was actually a compilation of articles from this magazine called The Freeman. Now, you all have a copy of it in your bag. It's the publication of the Foundation for Economic Education. It's mostly Freeman articles, not all. And I just couldn't believe it. I started reading it. I'm looking up. I said, and I was living at my parents' house at the time. I said, Mom, this is just unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I never heard anything like this. And I went to the class. It was a condensed weekend course, 3 days, very much like what you guys are doing here. And he played these movie clips by John Stossel. One of them I showed you yesterday. One of them I'll show you this afternoon. The other one I'll show you tomorrow. And the class was excellent, engaging me and having me think differently. And I walked away looking at, you remember that scene in The Matrix? Red pill and the blue pill? I had made a choice. I had changed my way of thinking. I had unlocked the way that I had thought about enterprise, poverty, and government. And I suddenly felt like I had an understanding of it. And I was hungry. Oh, was I hungry. I started going online and looking for everything I could find. Videos by Milton Friedman, articles by the Foundation for Economic Education, the Stossel stuff. And I just kept going. A year passed. I finally emailed the professor. I said, this just had such a big impact on me. Okay? And I ended up taking a course, and I went on and I studied economics at the graduate level, and I ended up working here at FEE. But I didn't plan on doing that. I wanted to be a car dealer, right? I'm from Michigan. I have a lot of automotive blood in my family. There were car dealers in my family. There's, my father worked for Ford. My grandfather worked for Ford, both for like 30 years. I mean, we're car people, in Detroit. And that's what I'm passionate about cars. But something persuaded me to change my course. So I started thinking differently about free enterprise, poverty. And I said, what I realized, what I took from that class about India in relation back to my original point, was that India didn't need my money. What they needed was economic freedom. The freedom to use their own abilities to make a better life for themselves. But they couldn't, because the system locked them in, and they couldn't expand. Now, I still stay in touch with the people from India, very much involved, but I realized that at the end of the day, spiritual issue, another issue, right? Spiritual stuff aside. At the end of the day, what they really needed was the ability to use their own abilities and engage in commerce and engage in free enterprise, entrepreneurship and business activities. To be able to trade with each other freely, right, as you're going to learn about today, later in an activity. Okay, so I want to give you my perspective. And my perspective is this. Take my laser. That free enterprise is the most moral, the most just, the most, the most productive and the most humane economic system that there is. Okay? And this is what compelled me. I came from a religious family who did a lot of charity work. My dad has a heart of gold. He gave lots of money away to, he wasn't a rich man, but he gave a lot of money away to help people in other countries, help them go to school and get food. Because he cared about people. But I grew up with that. Okay, so I care too. I care about what the condition my fellow man lives in. And I'm sure most of you do too. I'm sure all of you do. And this was the compelling reason for me. Why I changed my thinking. Moral in the sense that it instills character and virtue. We've heard these things called the bourgeois virtues, right? It's kind of a French word that I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing word. But it basically means the working merchant class virtues. How is that so? Well, in the merchant class, you have to think in advance about what are your customers doing, right? What do they need? What are they after? Who's buying your product? How can you better serve them in order to serve yourself? And so you learn prudence, you learn discipline, and hard work. You reap the fruits of your labor in direct proportion to your efforts, or at least very close to it. You work 10 hours, you get paid for 10 hours. You work 5, you get paid for 5. You start a business and it's successful, you get to keep the profits. If you start a business and it's a failure, you get to, swallow the losses sometimes, right? That's the system. That's the system that we live in. Productive in the sense that it delivers the goods. One of the wealthiest nations in the world that we live in. Okay? Because in large part we have a degree of freedom that other countries don't have. Okay? And humane. In the sense that it allows other people an opportunity to lift themselves out of poverty. It allows other people the opportunity to succeed, to make a better life for themselves. Capitalism, in many ways, is the most fair system in the sense that anyone can participate in it. Other systems, you might have to be a part of the party, right? And maybe, communist countries, if you're not a party member, you're not allowed to participate. But in this country, or at least in a free enterprise, we're mostly free enterprise, but not quite 100% there. All people are allowed to participate. It doesn't matter if you have a disability. It doesn't matter if you're black. It doesn't matter if you're white. It doesn't matter if you're male or female. Now, it hasn't always been that way, and we have our blemishes in our history. That's for sure. Okay? But in large part, that's the way that it is today. Okay, wait. Before I move into this one, I'm going to show you a disturbing picture. And there's a reason for it. I used to have this on my wall because I wanted to think about other people, not just myself, sometimes. And I needed a reminder. I'm representing two different systems here. One is the U.S. system, or a Western system on the left side, where you have cars and produce, and you got a Walmart where you can get anything you want. The other side, you got people living in slums, a guy living at subsistence living, maybe in India. And on the bottom, you have a child in Sudan who's literally starving to death. And that vulture is waiting for him to lose his strength so he can't fight him off anymore. And then you probably know what's going to happen next. This is very disturbing to me. Much of the world lives in these conditions. This is from 1994. This picture won a Pulitzer Prize. And the gentleman who took the picture committed suicide just months later. Just couldn't handle it. I can't handle it either. I cannot handle that there are people that live in these conditions. This is why I think free enterprise is so important. It's the great equalizer. It is the system that eliminates that and creates this. And this is why I think it's so important for us to understand. Okay, now that I just put you all in a very solemn mood, I want to talk about what it is that makes free enterprise possible. We're going to talk about some institutions that allow for prosperity to take root. Okay? So what are these institutions? Well, I'll just put them all out at once. The first one is political stability. That was the problem in Sudan. That was during a wartime. Right? Where no one's protecting people, they're not protecting property. Therefore, a farmer's not going to invest in crops because if he does, somebody's just going to take them and nobody's going to do anything about it. So why would you invest in planting fields if somebody's just going to take it from you? So people don't think about tomorrow because they know that if they think about tomorrow, somebody else is going to steal the fruits of their labor. Okay? Think about incentives. Right? If you have that incentive to work for tomorrow and you get to keep the fruits of your labor, then you'll work. If you know it's going to be taken from you, you won't. Incentives influence behavior in a predictable way. It's no different. Okay? Political stability. Think about countries like North Korea. We'll talk about them a little later. Libya, Afghanistan, or Chicago. Right? You guys know who the guy is on the right? He paid like 10 grand for that tie, by the way. My tie looks almost the same. I probably paid about $10 for this one. Pretty nice tie. Not as nice as his, apparently. But he was the governor of Illinois, right? And, of course, he got accused of, I don't know, I think they charged him with, like, racketeering or something. because he was selling off, the former Senator Barack Obama's Senate seat. That was the case. But anyway, he's not supposed to do that, right? There's a process. There's a rule of law, as they call it, meaning that laws guide our behavior, not the activities of the king, right? Not the activities of the dictator. No, we have a constitution in place, which Representative Setzler is going to be talking about later. We have a process in place for us to make these decisions, and that was not the process, okay? Afghanistan, Libya, these are bad places to live because they do not have the rule of law. They have the rule of the dictator. Another example of a failure of the rule of law might be the Chrysler bankruptcy. Okay, now this impacted us big in Detroit. Most people in Detroit were rooting for Chrysler. Of course, I was too in a way. But what they did is they circumvented the law. They said, well, yes, if you bought Chrysler bonds, which basically means that you loaned Chrysler money, if you bought their bonds and they said they were going to repay you, even if they had to liquidate their entire company to pay you, and that was the agreement that you had agreed on. We said we'd enforce it. We're just going to change our mind because there's some political considerations with the UAW here, the United Autos Workers, who's very politically powerful in Washington. And we're just going to change the rules so that the laws favor them. So they're going to get what they want rather than you get what you had bargained for. You were scratching your head and say, wait a minute, we're secured creditors. Okay? Now I'm going to go into a big list on that. But why would you invest in a country that just says, those are the laws, we're just going to kind of turn a blind eye to that? What do you do? Say, you invest in Chrysler? What if a country, a company is looking at bankruptcy? Maybe they're not doing very well. Are you going to invest in their company? No. I said, no. Because I thought that I was going to get paid no matter what, and now I realize I'm not. Okay? So you're not going to invest there. Okay? It takes capital or investment, and it says, nah, you don't want to invest here. You're going to invest over here where laws are more stable. Okay? Economic freedom. This is the general ability of people to be able to trade, engage in commerce. Okay? Different factors include things like sound money. I had a silver coin sitting on my dresser ready to show you, but I'm not going to be able to do that because I forgot it. But sound money, meaning it's stable. It's not going to change. What's our money made out of? Paper. What's it backed by? Nothing. What did it used to be backed by? Silver and gold, right? It's not backed by anything anymore. It's worthless. And if they start printing more and more, we're going to look like this little guy from Zimbabwe. We're going to take a big pile of money. Oh, I got to go and get this bread over here. How much money is it going to be? I don't know. It's going to be like $8 zillion. Like, here's $8 zillion for a loaf of bread. Can you imagine? Think about trying to buy like a car. You'd need a whole truckload of it. And this is what happens when we don't have money that's backed by a sound currency. We allow politicians to run the system. I'm not going to go into a big thing about sound money, but that's kind of the idea. You print more money and the value goes down. Ability to trade, regulations, the size of the government, meaning how much taxes are they going to have to suck out of you in order to feed this government system that they have. Okay? These are all factored into the Economic Freedom Index of the world. And in fact, can I get my volunteers? I got these handouts in the front. Leslie, would you mind coming up and handing out this handout that I've got laying here? And I think somebody else volunteered to do this. This is what's called the Economic Freedom Index of the world. It's up here, but I'm going to give you a handout because I want you to keep it and I want you to think about this. This is from 2011. I think it's the most recent one. Now, this measures how free is a nation. How free are you to start your own business? How safe is your property? How well are you going to be able to do if you invest in this nation? If you invest your time and energy and your money in this nation. Okay, now you'll notice at the top you've got countries like Hong Kong, you've got the United States is in the top 10 still, it's slipped a little bit, Canada, Switzerland, relatively stable nations. On the bottom, well there it is, Sudan, it's not even ranked because they can't even get enough data on it. Afghanistan, right? Iraq, these are war-torn countries. North Korea, Zimbabwe, why do you think Zimbabwe is there? Look at that currency, from that last slide. And you'll see this correlation over here. Per capita income has a direct correlation to the amount of freedom that you have. It goes up like this. The least free nations, look at their average income is somewhere around $3,800, and the most free nations is up around $32,000. There is a direct correlation to the amount of economic freedom or free enterprise that we have to our prosperity. There's another graph that just shows you by color what the freest nations are. Okay? So look at that. Look that over and look and say, where are the best places to live? They're the freest places. Okay. Now, when we are free, this is the title of the lecture, so why I did it. We have markets harmonizing the activities of buyers and sellers, connecting those people through their own self-interest. Nobody's forcing them to work together, right? These people are connected together through the market system. And markets harmonize it through flexible wages and prices or through the price, where is it? It's not up there yet. Oh, maybe I'm jumping ahead. Through the price system. So you can walk up to what we call an anonymous person. So you walk into the gas station, right? Here you go. I'd like $10 in gas, please. Here's my money. And he's like, okay, there's $10 in gas. So it gets you, what, 2 gallons these days? Do you know his name? No. Do you care? Not really. Unless you're Robert Bonner, who asks everybody his name, just because he's a nice guy. But no, most people don't care. We just say, I want $10 in gas, and you walk out. Why do they do that? Why do they give you the gas? Why don't they just say no? Because they have their own interests. They want to put food on their table. They want to ensure that they have a better life. Okay? So in an anonymous society, we still work together. We don't love them. They're not a member of our family. There's not enough love to go around. So we have markets. In a market, participation is voluntary and mutually beneficial. Adam Smith said that it is not from the benevolence of the butcher, the baker, or the brewer that we expect to receive our dinner, but because of their own self-interest. They don't care about you. They care about them. So they serve you to get money in return or exchange goods to make sure that they have a better life for them and their family. It's not about you. Okay? But it just so happens to work. Unleashing the unique talents and abilities that are in each one of us. Or as Leonard Reed said, let all creative energies be uninhibited. And that's what the market system does. So that we can thrive and prosper in this system, which is guided by self-interest. Okay? Okay, individuals answer key economic questions through tiny bits of know-how, guided by market prices. What is this tiny bits of know-how? Again, I'm borrowing from Leonard Reed, meaning that I may be a lumberjack in Washington State, and I'm going to cut down this tree because I want to sell it to somebody else who's making a pencil. You have a little essay in your packet called I Pencil. Read it. It's worth reading. It helps to explain this sort of mystery and this phenomenon, this magic of markets, where all of these different people are working together. And they say, oh, timber prices are going up. Okay? That sends a signal to the guy making pencils. Let's just say they're wood pencils, not mechanical pencils. That, hey, maybe we need to switch to mechanical pencils instead. They weren't around when Leonard Reed wrote that, I'm sure, but maybe today that's what we do. Because the resource price went up, sends that signal, okay? And this guy's a specialist in forestry or being a lumberjack. There's somebody else in maybe Brazil who is I guess you would say, harvesting rubber. Somebody else who's making that little piece of metal. All these people are working together for a grand goal that's not even theirs. What is their goal? Their goal is just to make money. They don't care about the pencil. They care about just selling the lumber. Sell the lumber. Right? Sell the rubber. Sell the graphite. You know, the lead. Now, when you go into the store and you give the guy, I mean, you're glad that it's a whole pencil, right? But the other guy doesn't care. What happens to that wood after it's sold doesn't matter. But all these people, little bits of know-how, are coordinated through the market system. Okay, so it answers these questions. I'm not going to go into it. It's just what should be produced, how should it be produced, who should it be produced for. They called this the invisible hand. Okay, Adam Smith called it this. Where order seems to emerge out of nowhere, right? It's an invisible order, or a spontaneous order that emerges out of the chaos of people pursuing their own interests. Okay? There's no central planner. There's no central person telling you how you should do it. And this is why I like that title, Economic Harmony. Because there's a rhythm and a pattern to how it works, guided by market prices. Okay, sources of wealth. There's a few different sources of wealth. I'm not going to go into all of them because I don't have time. But I'm going to go into a couple. Trade, you're going to learn about that a little bit later. Okay? When you trade, it's a win-win. You channel resources to the people who value them most. That's why they traded. Otherwise, they would say, you'd say no, right? I'm not trading with you. As long as it's voluntary, right? You say no. But if you say yes, presumably, you're better off. Okay? If you say no, then you maybe won't. But when people trade, we know ex ante, or before the fact, that people are going to be better off. Buyer's remorse happens once in a while, but generally. Like that third Cinnabon that I might eat, or second Cinnabon. I love Cinnabon. But, you know, I mean, you eat the whole thing. You get, but you know what? It's just, you know, lack of self-discipline. Right? That's not Cinnabon's fault. I'll do it again next time I go to the airport. You know, I always do. All right, production. Now, I've got a few different examples, a big one and a small one and a few others, but I just want to go into one big one, okay, or one main one. And that is, what is the incentive for somebody to produce more, right? You want to get more stuff. That's kind of the point of the economy, get more stuff, better quality of life. This guy gets this idea. I'm borrowing this from Peter Schiff, okay? And there's a review on this book. It's called How an Economy Grows and Why It Crashes. And there's a little picture. This is actually right from the book on the bottom. These guys trying to catch fish with their bare hands. They can only catch one fish a day. And one guy, his name is Abel, he says, I got an idea, guys. We'll make a fish catcher. They said, what? What's a fish catcher? You got your hands? No, I got another idea. He said, you're crazy. Keep catching fish with your hands. And don't come asking me for my fish when you didn't catch one, because they can only catch one a day, and that's how much they need to live. He gets his idea. Here it is. Ready? Something like this. So make it out of little vines and sticks on this island. Economists love putting people on islands. I don't know if you ever noticed that. They're always putting people on islands, right? So these guys are on an island. It's just them. It's a fish catcher. It's kind of a lousy drawing. I'm not much of an artist. But this fish catcher is going to help him catch more fish. What are we going to do? Catch it. We call it a net, right? He had this idea. All of a sudden, he can now catch 2 or 3 fish a day. Brilliant. So what can he do? He can work one day to feed himself for 2, and he can relax. Or do something else. We saw that happen in our economy about 150 years ago, where all of a sudden, we didn't have to work as much on farming, and what do? You know, 80-something% of people work in agriculture, maybe a little less. But most people used to be farmers, right? They were growing their food. But then all of a sudden, we had what? Tractors, right? Tractors kind of started, or plows, you know, they started taking over for this. So all of a sudden, we free up extra time, free up extra resources. They can do something else. Now, there's other things like an assembly line or just seed in general. What did I do with my clicker? What's in my pocket? Remind me. You got to watch what I'm doing. Okay, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about private property. I'm going to buzz through this because I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. But private property means that you, on your own a resource. Okay? There's different incentives of private property, but basically it means you have the exclusive right to use, legal protection, and the right to buy or sell or transfer it. And I'm just going to go real quickly into these different incentives of private property. If you want this slide, I'll email it to you. Just send me a note and let me know, and you can look through it. But I tend to put a little bit more text in there because when I was teaching, I found that people didn't really read the book, but they would watch the PowerPoint and they'd read the PowerPoint. So I just pack it in there. I break all the rules, right? But, okay, so an owner, so this says an owner has an incentive to gain by using the resources in ways that benefit others. Okay? Now, there's a couple of different examples that we could use here. One of them might be during the Olympics. There was Olympics here in Atlanta, what, 96? If you had an empty lot, what would you do with that empty lot if there were a lot of people here, right in downtown Atlanta? Parking, right? Parking is hard to get in this. What if you just said, nah, I don't care about parking. I don't care about those people. What would you lose out on? Resources. The opportunity cost of using that resource for nothing is too high for you to pass up. You know, the opportunity for you to make that money is too good to pass up, so you don't. Okay? I'm just going to go into that example. I'm not going to go into much more. Owners tend to take better care of their property, to keep it longer, right? This is my truck down here. Okay? This is a bike that was community owned at Berry College, meaning that nobody really owned it. Remember what happens when nobody owns something? It tends to fall in disrepair. When I buy something, this is the way I am, I'm not trying to brag, it's just because I'm cheap. I bought that truck for $5,000. Okay? It only had like 100,000 miles on it, but it was beat up. What did I do? Started going on Craigslist. New wheels, new bumper, new windows. It was beat up. I'm telling you, the thing stunk. I redid the seats. I did everything. All of my cars, I kid you not, every single car, my wife's here, she could testify to this. Every single vehicle I owned, by the time I got rid of it, it probably looked better than when I bought it. That's just how I am. I like my cars, right? I told you I'm from Detroit. All right, owners have an incentive to conserve for the future, meaning that you don't want to kill the goose that lays the golden egg, right? If you've got 2 chickens, you know, or a rooster and a chicken, I guess would be, you're not going to eat them both because you want them to mate and have little baby chickens so that you can have chicken down the road too. You don't want to just eat them all today, right? That's not always the case, right, if you don't have private enterprise. Okay? And public spaces, you have strip mining and other things. You know, they don't care about conservation. Private owners have an incentive to lower the cost of harm to others. Ford had this problem with this Pinto years ago, where if you hit it real hard in the back, it would blow up, because that's where they put the gas tank. Everybody's like, oh, Ford's evil. Ah. They did this to Toyota like 2 years ago. You remember that? The brakes and the fires. They're not evil. How many of you think it's good business to kill your customers? Just anybody. No, it's bad business. Why would you want to kill your customers? It's bad business. So you don't, right? You want to help them. You want to keep them around. I mean, you can't sell anything tomorrow if they're dead, can you? Now, when in public spaces, it doesn't matter. How many people have died on public roads and highways? Who gets sued for it? This is the number. 40,000 deaths a year on public highways due to things like this, which we see a lot of in Michigan, potholes. They actually put up a sign on US 23, where I used to live in Michigan, that just said rough road. They weren't even going to mess with it. They just had a rough road. Basically, slow down. Don't worry about it. We're not going to fix it. Well, if you were a private company and you did that and somebody got hurt, what do you think? The Congress would be holding hearings. There would be newspapers about corporate greed. But when the government does it, it doesn't seem to be the same. So who do you want to own somebody? Are you more likely to get raped or murdered in Disneyland or Central Park? Why are you laughing? It's a legitimate question. Or Piedmont Park, right? We're in Atlanta. Sorry, I should have changed my example. Well, I mean, if Disneyland has a rape or a murder, it's going to be all over the news. They want to prevent this. They have adequate security. What happens here? Whatever. Don't go to the park. They don't care. They don't have a profit incentive. Okay? So that's that. Now, I'm just going to talk quickly because I don't have a lot of time, and I always overdo these things. So I want to talk about price signals. Okay? So once you have private property, now you have prices. Prices start to guide and harmonize economic activity. Okay? When the price is high, say gasoline, what does that tell the suppliers? It says, we need more, bring more, right? We need more of this stuff. Because the supply is low, prices tend to go up. As you increase the supply, prices tend to go down. If the demand is higher, prices tend to go up. If demand is lower, prices tend to go down. So there's signals that go to producers and to sellers. Or what does it tell the consumers? It says conserve gas. Stop buying F-150s, which is still, by the way, the best-selling vehicle in the United States. So apparently, prices aren't high enough, right, if we really care about conserving fuel. Right? Because people say, well, I don't care. I'm going to keep driving my F-150. That's what I drive, too. You know, I mean, it's what people want to drive. But, you know, at $10 a gallon, I'll probably sell it. You know what I mean? I don't need it anymore. I used to run a lawn business. I don't run that business anymore. I don't really need the truck. Right? I'll buy a, I don't know, what do they sell now? Something small. You know. Okay. Now prices can send signals the other way too. How about a high price saying we need more water and generators and food to come to Louisiana because we just had a hurricane, right? That high price goes up. What do politicians call this? They call it gouging. Ah! Price gouging. You ever heard that term, anyone? No one's heard it? A couple of you, okay? And it sounds evil and greedy. Well, if that price doesn't go up, does the guy in Michigan get the signal and say, hey, maybe I should take my generator down there and sell it? What's he going to do if you make the price stay there? You're going to have a shortage of generators. You let that price go up, all of a sudden people all around the country say, hey, let's mail our generators over to Louisiana because they'll sell them, right? We can sell it on Craigslist or eBay, or maybe we can just drive them down there and truck them down there. Okay? It sends a signal. This is important. This is how economic activities are harmonized, and resource allocation is harmonized throughout all of society. Not going to be able to go in all these examples. But again, it's the invisible hand. How about a low price for fruit? What is a low price for fruit? Sale, right? I put a sales tag on this one. You see that? Nice sales tag. A sale on fruit might mean that fruit's going to expire. So if you're Kroger, what are you going to say? Sale, manager special. Right? Manager special. That's the way I like to buy stuff. You know, I was looking for those. There's the orange tag. Right? It's going to expire, but I don't care. I'll eat it. I'll throw it in the freezer. It'll be fine. Expiration date, kind of recommendation. No one's coming to dinner at my house now. No, my wife's an excellent cook, though. I'm just throw it out there. You can't come to dinner. It's safe, and we will have, you know, relatively new food. No, I'm just kidding. But we have a system that takes care of goods that are about to expire. Right? We put a sales tag on it and says, let's get rid of this stuff. We don't need it on our shelves anymore. If you prevent a price from going up or going down, you let goods sit. And it doesn't send a signal to mobilize those resources. If you put maybe a cap on gas prices, yeah, I'm not gonna sell gas below cost. And you end up with shortages like you did in the 70s. Okay? I wasn't around in the 70s, but that's what I heard. But prices are the messenger. Don't blame the messenger. There's a problem. Prices are telling you about the problem. Don't yell at the prices. Oh, it's too high. No, the price is telling you something. Mobilize those resources. Okay. Now, in a free market system, the customer is king. Okay? The customer is king because they're wearing this crown. No, that has nothing to do with it. This is an analogy. The customer is king because all activity, in the end of the day, is built on satisfying consumer needs and wants. Okay? So if I am, say, Burger King or Pepsi or whoever, or Coke, we're in Atlanta, right? Coke. So I need to think about that consumer who's buying it. Now, Coke tried this one thing. It was called New Coke. Here's the can. And no one liked it. And they said, well, bring back old Coke. That's why they call it Coca-Cola Classic now. So they didn't like it. So it's not like businesses can just do whatever they want. Ford had this same problem in I think it was the 30s or the 40s. They built this car called the Edsel. They named it after Henry Ford's son. Do you think they had a lot riding on this car when Henry Ford names a car after his son? Yeah. You want it to succeed, or do you want your son to be a failure? No, you want your son's name to be associated with success. No one bought it. No one bought this car. Failed. Sorry, it just failed. I mean, some people bought it, but not nearly enough. Wasn't working. Businesses earn patronage through price, quality, reputation. Reputation is huge. For me, that goes a long way. In my business, when I used to operate a lawn service in high school and in college. I just sold it just like a year ago. So I'm kind of a blue-collar guy. But my business was all about reputation. I had people underbid. I mean, Michigan's economy in the last 10 years, I mean, way before this national recession, it's been in turmoil because of the automotive industry. I had all these laid-off auto workers attaching these, trailers to their minivans. They got a lawnmower. Oh, cut your lawn for $10. And you know what? People said, no. Some people would go with them, but they say, I really stick it there. He's a good job. He's been dependable. I think I could trust him. Sometimes they didn't. And you know what I said? I had one customer. He accused me. He said, I want you to cut my lawn up to Halloween and stop on Halloween. And I was going to cut it like the day before Halloween, and I forgot, and a couple days went by, so I cut it like 2 days after Halloween. I thought, that's fine, that's normally how things work. I sent him a bill, and he calls me and says, I got a problem with my bill. I was in school at the time. I didn't call him right back, and I get this message. I'm calling the Better Business Bureau and all these other people, and I'll make sure you never do business in that town. Oh, okay. Sorry. He said, you just had to get an extra $25. I'm thinking. So I call up and say, hey, I just want to let you know that I would never sacrifice a long-term relationship for $25. I thought I was acting in your interest. I'm sorry. Don't pay the bill. Because the long run's more important to me than the short run. And in the long run, a businessman wants to please the customer. You don't get ahead in business by taking shortcuts and doing unfair dealings, because your reputation will hurt you. And I just appealed to him. I said, hey, I care about my reputation and the way that you think about me. And you know what he did? He called me back the next spring. And I got it on for a couple more years. That's how it went. And I said, yeah, I want your business next year too. He said, yeah, he made a valid argument. Okay, now let's talk about, how much time do I have? I'm out of time already, aren't I? I want to talk briefly about entrepreneurship, and I'll just say this. Entrepreneurship is a dynamic process of competition where entrepreneurs are always changing the status quo, like you heard about yesterday with Vanderbilt. Okay? The status quo is there, and they change it. Vinyl records, cassette tapes, CDs, to MP3s, what's next? Okay? MP4s, I guess, that's where we're at now. Horse and buggy, Henry Ford challenged that status quo. What did he say? I'm going to build this automobile, and I'm not just going to build a $2,000 automobile like everybody else. I'm going to build it cheap. He started innovating, and he said, look, I'm going to build this assembly line. It's a big thing with specialization and division of labor where everybody's putting their parts in. What? He built it. It didn't work the first time. He went bankrupt first, I think. First company, I think, was called Henry Ford Motor Company. And only later did he start Ford Motor Company. Successful? Yeah, he became successful. He started selling first a few other models, but eventually got to the Model T. And the Model T became known as the Tin Lizzie. It was the biggest mass-produced car of its time, up until the 1930s, I believe it was built. And that car, or maybe late 20s, I can't remember. And that car went from $850, what is this, $850? Do I have numbers in here? I don't. $850 to down, all the way down to $300. He kept cutting the prices. Not only did that, he provided a lot of people with jobs. I think that's my next slide. Oh, yeah. He provided a lot of people with jobs. And he didn't care if you were black, white, man, woman. Didn't matter. He didn't care if you spoke English, as long as you did the work. He doubled the wage to make sure that people would stay working for him. And they did. He wanted to reduce employee turnover. How did he do it? Well, I'll pay you more. Anybody going into business? Do not underpay your workers because they will leave. When I had a guy working with me, I always had one guy working. I had different people over the years, but I always paid him about $2 an hour more than I knew that he could get a job somewhere else. Why? Because it cost me time and money to have to retrain someone. And I don't have time for that. And in business, you want to retain your employees, you've got to make sure that you pay them fairly. Or they'll go somewhere else. Okay. He didn't do it out of charity. He did it out of his own self-interest. Again, harmonizing not just buyers and sellers, but labor and management. You didn't realize that you could harmonize. You thought you had to have a union. No, no, no. We didn't have unions until the 1930s. Well, we had them, but not. In the UAW didn't get into Ford Motor Company until 1930. Well, Ford doubled the minimum wage in the 19-teens. He didn't need a union to tell him. He said, look, I want to keep my workers. It's good business. It's good business. It's not good business to send your workers packing. Now, in a business, we are guided by the profit and loss system. It's a good thing to have bankruptcy. Profits mean this. You took resources that are worth this much, you put them through your process, now they're worth this much. And consumers like it, and they're going to buy it, and a profit is your reward for taking resources and maximizing them and adding value by putting them through that, whatever, manufacturing process or what have you. A loss is a penalty. See, I got a paddle down there. Clever. Penalty for destroying resources. Just go, stop doing that. You're wasting resources. You're throwing money down the toilet. Okay? Customers are saying, we don't like what you're doing. Okay? Going out of business is a good thing. It's healthy. It's a cleansing process in the market. Now, I'll just wrap up. I only got 2 more minutes. I know I'm a little bit over. Bear with me. Private ownership leads to this voluntary cooperation, where people of all races, religions, ethnic groups will come together. Okay? This is actually my younger brother up there. He's in Afghanistan right now. I don't know who that is, but apparently they're having fun. I could have given you a picture with like a big gun, but no. Look, they're getting along. Maybe they made a trade. Maybe they did. I doubt it, but maybe they did. Okay? They're coexisting. People coexist. You don't care what race or what religion the guy at the gas station or the guy at the super Walmart or whatever it is. You just care that does he get you the goods. So, let's think about what would you be willing to work with someone? Is it somebody that you really didn't like if they offered you something that you wanted? I'll bet you would. So you have an incentive to do so. And if you didn't, you'd have to go to the next best supplier, which means you're incurring a loss on yourself, or you're minimizing value for yourself by choosing to not do business with that person. You're not getting the best deal. I want the best deal. Free market's a source of world peace. Maybe if we started trading with our enemies, quote, maybe we get along better. Like, places like Cuba, North Korea. Why go to war with countries? Not that we're at war with them, but why go to war with countries if we could just trade with them? Do you want to kill your trading partners? Just like it's bad business to kill your customers, it's bad for business to kill your trading partners. Trade's good. It's mutually beneficial. You don't want to kill the people that you trade with. That creates wealth. Okay? Smith pointed out that only in the marketplace do you see people all getting along in harmony. Christian, Jew, Mohammedan, Hindu. Go to the London Stock Exchange and you will see representatives from all nations. There are the Jew, Mohammedan, the Christian, all dealing with each other as if they were the same religion. They are content. That's what Michael Jackson wanted. He said, we are the world. We are the children. Right? He wanted everybody to get along in harmony and peace, right? So he really wanted free trade. Is that what he wanted? I don't know all the verses. You sing it, Scott. Yeah, it works. Alternatives? You don't want to trade? Here's 2 countries in Asia. You know what they are? Some of you got a tip on this one because I've been to your classroom. Yes, North Korea and South Korea. What's all this down here? Lights. Yeah. Free enterprise, South Korea. North Korea? Nope. North Korea, they might have some of those people who look like that child that I showed you earlier. They don't trade together. South Korea is very prosperous, relatively free. North Korea, not so much. So, in closing, I really just wanted to emphasize how important free enterprise is. These different things, I've only glazed over the surface of all these different factors. Where do you want to be? Do you want to be here? Do you want to be there? Where do you want the rest of the world to be and your fellow man? You want them to be on the bottom or on the top? I want them to be in the country with the lights on. Because I care about my fellow man, and I think you do too. I don't want anyone, not even my worst enemy, to have to live in that place. That's all I have. Thank you very much.